Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're talking about another planetary alignment, and this is Pluto in retrograde. So actually Pluto has been in retrograde for quite a while, but we're going to talk about some new stuff that's coming up for June, or that has been affecting people and will continue to affect people as we go through the month of June. So let's give you some hard facts. So Pluto went into retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, and it went into retrograde in January. It turned full retrograde the end of April 27th, and it'll stay in full retrograde, so pre-shadow, regular retrograde until October 2nd, and then it'll go into post-shadow and start to calm down a little bit more. So right now we're in like at the thick of things. Out of the 5-month retrograde cycle, we're in month number 2, so we still have a little bit more with this. So Pluto's energy is always considered to be evolving and regenerating and kind of transforming what's around us. I will tell you that one of the most things that happens is it kind of flips on its side, because that's kind of what retrograde does. It's kind of like, let's look at it from 180 degrees off kilter from what we normally are. And normally Pluto kind of transforms us from the outside in. Things or situations that are coming up around us are going to come from the outside, changes in how our perspective and how we look at things and how we deal with things. Well, right now in retrograde, it's kind of flipped that around 180 degrees. So we're going to kind of go, this situation isn't working for me, or this doesn't work for me in the career department or with family or with friends or whatever it is. And it's kind of coming from the inside. Our own inner stuff is coming up, and it's going to change the outside world. And that's really a great process for us to be in. But it also, when we change ourselves, it allows the other people around us to change. So that's kind of one of the really interesting, fun things about it. Pluto is in the very earthy, very stable sign of Capricorn. And in this sign, it's kind of going to reiterate that kind of transformation of profound transformations. And it's all about like life and death, rebirth, coming back. It's all about the major stuff of it, and kind of like that phoenix rising from the ashes, being born again. And it's going to come in with kind of 2 key things that we really need to keep in mind. It's going to come in with a lot of karma. So you're going to see people that kind of just blurt out their karma of like, the car really wasn't stolen, I did this, or whatever it is. I parked it in the wrong spot and something happened to it. Like, you're going to see that more and more. And because Pluto is so far on the outside, this is going to affect world views of things. Normally, the closer the planet is to us, the more it affects the person, the individual people. And the more further out it goes, it's going to affect globally. It's going to affect countries and governments, areas or regions. It's going to affect more global stuff. The other one that it's going to kind of go into is going to kind of kick us in fate, kind of like where we thought we were supposed to go. It's going to kick us off kilter. For a while, we're thinking, this is not where I want to go, but actually it's taking us where we need to be. And that's something to kind of keep in mind as we go through this period. It's like, where do we want to go, or what do we want to transform? And really know that Pluto's energy has got us stable enough in Capricorn to kind of show us what we need to see, or what we need to change, or what we need to look at. It's going to bring up a lot of logical thinking for ourselves, kind of like really looking at things from the outside in, and kind of like, what do we need to change? What do we need to transform about us so we can transform our world? Kind of, since he's, like I said, he's so far out, it's going to be affecting global stuff. So you're going to see on a global stage a lot of people that their karma is going to kind of kick them in the booty. You're going to see this a lot, and it could be political people, world leaders, that sort of thing, kind of having this come back at them. But it's also going to be people that are leaders of the country. Big corporations, big entities, like Hollywood celebrities, like people that everybody know. That's where it's going to really start affecting people. Not that it won't affect everybody else. It's going to affect them more, and it's going to show up on a more of a world stage. During Pluto in retrograde, we really may feel kind of like this need to pull back, or kind of go into our own little cage. And this happens in Pluto as in Jupiter as well. But Pluto is going to make this a little bit differently, that we're actually going to kind of tune into our own intuition at this point. So one of the things that's really interesting to kind of bring this up or to kind of help through this part, is black tourmaline is a stone. It's a beautiful stone, and this can also make us feel a little more protected, a little more at ease, and kind of help with that transition. The other stone that's really interesting is Crystacella, and that's the stone for 2021. And it's a very soothing stone, and it's going to help us kind of move fluidly into the different parts. And I know that sounds interesting, but it's kind of more bring this fluidity to what's coming in and around. So the more you have these two stones around you, the more it's going to amplify this. Pluto will express falsehoods in our life. Anything that we haven't faced may kind of kick us in the face with it. Things that we thought we knew, but it wasn't a lie, or we were told incorrectly, or we thought incorrectly about it, it's going to bring it up. And that's part of that karma part of it. But the truth is coming forward, and you're going to see that more and more. And I think that's the interesting part. I think that's one of the things I love about Pluto in retrograde, is not only for me to have that transformation, but world leaders. It's one of those, when you get that old nasty karma off of you, or and step into what you're supposed to be doing, it brings a lot of healing, not only for them, but also for the people that voted them in, or the people that elected them. It also kind of transforms the whole area, or the region, or the country. It just kind of transforms everything. So that's a really interesting energy to be around. So Pluto may also bring up issues around fear of death, or fear of situations. It's one of those, I think it's really interesting that a lot of people are really terrified of passing. And I think that has a lot to do with karma. So if you have not really been the best person, you're going to fear death more, I think, more often than if someone who's kind of felt like I've done a good thing, or I've tried to live my life the right way. You're going to see those people kind of like, I don't want to die, because they're afraid of moving into that energy, or going through judgment, so to speak. So that's kind of an interesting energy as well. We're going to see a lot of deaths coming up. And I don't mean necessarily physical deaths. It could be, but I would say like death of career. You're going to see people like, I'm not wanting to do this anymore. I want to change careers. And you're going to see a lot of death of like titles, which is interesting. So if you've been a stay-at-home mom and your children are getting out of high school or college, and they're going to be leaving the home, and so you're going to kind of have the death of that stay-at-home mom kind of thing. You're going to have a death of that title. I will say that this is a kind of an interesting thing to kind of think about. And a lot of people, because my kids are older, have been through this. And I think it's a really interesting part that people bring forward. It's like they don't want their children to grow up. They don't want them to leave the home, yet it's what they're supposed to do. It's kind of fate. It's supposed to leave. But they carry on so much, or they keep it going so long, that it really not only hurts the child, but it hurts them. And so this is a great way to kind of kick this all around and make sure that it is opening up for everybody. I also see that the number of deaths will dramatically decrease. And I kind of feel like a lot of governments, and we've seen this a lot during this time frame, but I also feel like we're going to keep seeing those numbers of like COVID-19 deaths kind of keep lowering and getting lower and lower. And it's one of those, they were kind of like on the Me Too, like we want to count like every death as a COVID death, and now they're starting to adjust those numbers, and the death tolls are kind of like actually decreasing instead of increasing. And it's one of those, you're going to see that continually to go. But people are still grieving. A lot of people have been through death over the last year and a half. And as we've gone through this COVID-19, it's something that a lot of people have felt like they haven't really gotten a chance to grieve. For a while, people weren't even allowed to go to funerals or have funerals. Or if they did, they could only have 2 or 3 people, and it wasn't really a chance to grieve. And so Pluto in retrograde is going to allow us that time to kind of grieve this loss and kind of move through some of this. I would also say there's going to be themes of abuse or control that are kind of more prevalent during this time frame. And you're going to see a lot more compulsive or addictive personalities coming out. And that kind of goes along with Neptune in retrograde as well. So you're going to kind of feel that as well. A lot of old spiritual wounds will come up as well. And so I think that's going to be kind of an interesting one, probably especially because what I do, being a psychic, I deal with this a lot of spiritual wounds that surface from the past. And I would say Pluto is more about this lifetime, not necessarily past lives. It can bring up past lives, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it's usually a current life situation that we're talking about. And it can be difficult to understand where the links are or how they've connected to other things, but know that they're there. Let's see. Sometimes things are unexplainable or exist beyond words, and that's where this kind of comes in. It's like there's really not a good word to explain this energy with this, but it's going to be coming around. Kind of one of the things that does come up around Pluto in past lives is kind of like incarnations of what you were in the past, and then you kind of add that Neptune energy in there, and you've got like this past life dreamy stuff that's coming around, and so that's going to bring in a lot of interesting energy as well. One of the other things that I think is really interesting to understand during Pluto in retrograde is manipulation and victimization. You're going to see this on the rise. A lot of people claiming to be victims when they're not really a victim. People say that they've been manipulated when they really haven't. You're going to see a lot of that energy kind of keep coming forward and kind of keep moving up. On that part, the best I can tell you is one of the things that kind of Pluto kind of kicks into gear is our intuition, and kind of trust that inner guidance of like, that doesn't sound right, or that doesn't feel right. And sometimes it'll just eventually steer you in the right direction to get the information that you're really looking for. This is a great time with Pluto in retrograde is to amplify your abilities. I will say that is like an overwhelming theme in all of them is work on your abilities. It kind of lets things go, so you can kind of self-develop what you want to come out with. Pluto really works on our intuition, so that's something that's really, really important to be aware of. Any planetary retrogrades are a great time to review, reflect, reassess, kind of rethink, how you want to do things or how you want things to come out. Spiritual people and psychics, healers are very affected by Pluto in retrograde. People that deal with death, investigators, police officers, and you may also see a rise in suicides as well. Not necessarily any more than normal, but you're going to see a little bit of a rise in there, not huge. But you're going to see a rise in that as well. One of the other stones that I think is really good is this is green Aventurine. And this is really great about kind of bringing that prosperity back to us, kind of drawing that energy back into our selves, and kind of what do we want to change and what do we want to modify. The other one that I have found that's very helpful in this is a hand sanitizer that I make, and this is called Dragon's Blood, and this is really about cleansing and balancing our energy. It's one of those, it's great to spray on your hands and kind of rub, and then you can kind of smell your hands. It's got Dragon's Blood oil in there, essential oil in there, which kind of just allows us to kind of amplify our energy and amp things up as we move through this thing. So let's pull a couple of cards real quick and see what other information comes through. This one popped right out. Meditation. Like I said, this may be a time where you want to step back and kind of take some time to yourself and kind of reflect on what do you want to change about yourself or what you want to deal with differently. So that's a really interesting one. Emerging. Like I said, this is a really great time to work on your psychic abilities when all of these planets are in retrograde, or get into a self-help book or a class online. That's a really good one as well. Anything that you can do to kind of change or modify or upgrade what you're doing is a great thing. Taking care of yourself, body care. On this one, I kind of feel like when you're in your kind of like man cave, or you're kind of like, I need a little bit of time away from everybody else to kind of deal with what's going on. This can be a really great thing to kind of take care of yourself. Meditation is really great inner work to do. Meditating on different pieces of advice or like different areas. So that's going to kind of bring in some amazing energy for people to work with. So if you're having some issues with Pluto in retrograde, just know that you're right on track with everybody else. I've been seeing this a lot lately, probably since late April when it went into full retrograde. That's when all of this has started amping up for most people around us. So if you have any questions, comment, or would you like to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you join us. Thank you so much, and I know we'll be talking again soon.